Welcome to the show. This is Health Ready with Dr. Reddy, episode 2, where we talk about all things health and wellness to support a healthier you. I'm Water Tay. Partnering me is Dr. Sankeerth Reddy.
Hi, everybody. Now, if you haven't yet watched the episode 1, we highly recommend you watch that first, as it gives you an overview of health and wellness. In today's episode and the following episodes, we dive deeper into the central theme. Our theme for today is health challenges. Without addressing that first, we can't further look at wellness.
Now, you can also find us on Facebook, which is fb.com/healthreadyshow, where you can find updated on this series, as well as curated wellness and articles that are curated by both Dr. Reddy and I. As of all our shows, we have a special guest on board, and today I'm very grateful to have a familiar face from the mass sports events and a very dear friend of mine.
So, let's dive into the show, shall we?
Yep.
Water, I'd like to ask you, what do you think are the 3 biggest health challenges in Singapore?
The 3 biggest health challenges in Singapore. Now, Singapore being so stressful, and a lot of people are like, making ends meet, putting in long hours. I believe that the biggest one would be health, heart disease. All right, it's definitely stressful, so you probably develop heart disease from that. And recently, I think a lot of people are really, not say recently, but Singaporeans do have a thing for sweet stuff. So, too much sugar in our food system, and probably diabetes would be one. And definitely cancer. Cancer is going to be up there. Is that right, doctor?
Yeah, you're almost there. You're almost there. In Singapore and globally, the trend for circulatory diseases or cardiovascular diseases is on the rise. So that puts heart disease right on top. Okay. In Singapore, cancer is more prevalent. So between cancer and heart disease, that's a good 50% of the population that's going to suffer from these 2 conditions.
50%?
Yeah. Imagine
goodness.
half of Singapore would, during their lifetime, get either cancer or heart disease. And hence, it's important that we learn about diabesity. And what is diabesity?
Yeah, what is obesity?
Yeah, so because diabesity is a new term that's been coined, where we talk about both diabetes and obesity as they go hand in hand.
Right, that means somebody who is obese has a big chance of being a diabetic.
Exactly. Both these conditions are part of the same spectrum, and we are now more and more familiar with people who are obese coming to see us for heart problems, for diabetes, for other cardiovascular problems. So now we know that the common element there is insulin.
Insulin, okay. There's this term called insulin resistance. Perhaps you would like to share with our folks out there, what is this insulin resistance all about?
That's a good question. So insulin resistance is basically our body's inability to tap on insulin. So example, if you were responding to 1 glass of or one cup of coffee, okay, initially
Yes.
1 cup of coffee keeps you alert, but if you keep doing that over time, then your body needs 3 or 4 or 5 cups of coffee to keep you up, to keep you
Yes,
awake.
you need more of it to get the same effect.
Exactly. So insulin resistance is when one portion of insulin is not enough for your body to respond to. It needs more and more. So what happens is the body produces more and more to compensate, and that leads to bulking up. You lead to weight gain, it leads to inflammation, it leads to a lot of other issues, which we will go deeper as we go into the episode. So stress is a universal problem. It's been there for ages. Our ancestors in the hunter-gatherer days lived in jungles where they used to hunt. There was competition for food. There was competition for mates. So there was a different types of stress at that time. And imagine,
And those were days where there were like dinosaurs and everybody would be like so stressed up.
Yeah.
But right now it's probably your boss.
so imagine this. You're walking in the jungle looking for food, and then a tiger pounces out of the bush.
Yep.
That's stress. That's acute stress happens at that moment. What's the equivalent of that now? So you're going for a board meeting or a very senior level executive meeting, And while you're walking along the alley in your office, your boss comes out from one of the rooms and you have a deadline that you
Alright.
haven't followed up. That is stress.
For me, it's
That,
my credit card bill at the end of the month.
that is stress too. So these are acute stress episodes, and COVID-19 has also exposed many of that. People's livelihoods being at stake. A lot of things have been changing. Some pivoted, some didn't pivot. So what's causing all this? And
Right.
the short term is what you're seeing, but the long term impact of this stress on the various, the health aspects of different people in Singapore, that's going to take you years to realize.
So in today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about stress and how to mitigate it and what are the problems where we have going to have stress and everything else. So stay tuned. It's going to be an exciting episode for you to watch.
There's lots coming on that, and this is one of my favorite topics to talk about.
So stressful. Hey, we're back. Health Ready with Dr. Reddy. Now, in this part of the show, we're going to talk about stress, where we left off just now.
Yeah, and as I said, this was a very important topic for today's episode, and it's also one of my favorite topics to talk about because there's so much that stress is causing in today's days, and there's a lot of context to discuss that. So, according to American Medical Association, more than 60% of the visits to the family practice there are associated with unaddressed stress. But rarely people who go with these symptoms receive treatment that's helping them.
I can totally relate with that because sometimes when I feel stressed, I tend to just want to like bury it and not address it and just go and work hard or run away from it.
People usually escape it, Netflix and chill, go and have a run, have a beer. They do a lot of things to get around that. So, what leads to stress and why is it a problem? That's been a big question, a billion-dollar question. And a simple solution to just kind of simplify the whole thing is unsolved problems over a long period of time build up, leading to chronic stress.
Okay, so what happens is it's not just a mental or emotional problem, but it leads on to chronic diseases as well.
That's right. So it's a build up over time. It's not like one day you wake up with so much stress that it leads to heart disease.
Right.
It's built up slowly over time. It's like how water breaks the rock. Drop by drop, it builds up over the years, and then the rock finally cracks, and that's when you manifest disease.
Okay.
That's an equivalent.
So when you have like the grand finale, there are like many parts to it before you lead to the big one.
Yes, small steps that lead to it.
Okay.
So to understand that, I think we need to talk about what's stress as a whole.
Right.
So there is a acute stress, which, as I said, like a tiger that appears in front of you, the instant feeling that you get, the flight or fight
Right.
mode, that is acute stress. You have a sudden deadline coming up, that is acute stress. Whereas a chronic stress is you've had like a very demanding work or a poor relationship
A toxic workplace.
or toxic workplace. That kind of leads to stress over a long period of time, and it's a little by little the amount of energy negativity that builds up in you.
So which is worse, the acute ones or maybe the something that builds over the years?
Okay, so if you're able to handle the acute stress better, there's no problem with that. Your body recovers from it. It's the chronic stress that builds up over time.
Right.
And when unaddressed, it becomes degenerative. That's why we call it distress. Because mental health is often not discussed openly.
Right.
And what it does is there's a whole dynamic of how stress over time or even in a shorter period with intense stress leads to pressure, leads to things like anxiety, depression, low mood, and even impacts the sleep. to a point where people can't sleep. Insomnia is on the rise. People struggle, take pills, do different things, but the root cause for most of those problems comes from stress.
And it sounds like, you get the stress, the lack of sleep, everything, and it creates more stress in your life.
That's right. It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle. But then let me remind you, not all stress is bad stress. So there's something called the good stress.
Okay, so
which
there's
is the
positive stress.
positive stress. Like example, an athlete who's striving to get gold. That stress that he's put, that pressure that he's putting on himself to train, him or her, to train, to pursue, to get that, to achieve, is eustress.
So what you're saying is there's a time where the stress will actually work for you, and there's a time, actually most times, the stress is actually work against you.
Yeah, detrimental. So there's a positive stress and there's a negative stress.
Right.
And stress is unavoidable in today's society. The more successful you are, the more stress you have to handle. And the more you have to innovate to how to handle that stress better.
Right. Okay. So I think a lot of times, when we talk about heart disease and everything else, we do not actually look at the stress itself, but actually treat the disease.
That's right. We all know that when we are very stressed, like generally, we tend to have like headaches,
Body
and
aches,
body aches,
fatigue.
fatigue. And if you measure your blood pressure during that time, you will invariably find that your blood pressure values are higher than what they're supposed to be. So it's also proven that for a longer period of time, if someone's in a very stressful situation, their blood pressure will invariably go up. And when blood pressure goes up over a long time, that leads to heart disease, that leads to strokes, and that leads to a lot of other problems.
This is pretty much like looking at the root cause of the high blood pressure, the heart disease, everything.
That's right. That's right. Stress is often not discussed as rightly what you pointed out is because there are very few tools available to kind of determine that stress, what level of stress is there, or how is it impacting. So it's often not addressed and it's just pushed under the carpet. And people treat the problem they see directly. They talk about hypertension. Let's control your blood pressure, or let's control the other issues like mood problems, just let's address the depression or anxiety. So the underlying problem is what we need to focus on invariably to get a long-term solution.
Okay. So, well, I can totally relate it because sometimes when I feel stressed, the whole energy just goes really down, and there was one time, I really felt like, not waking up to go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. There's a lot of clients who I've spoken to, a lot of patients I've spoken to who have similar problems
Right.
where they just don't feel like getting up the next day and going to work.
So it's very common, actually.
It is. It's quite pervasive in modern day society. And as I said, mental health is often not discussed. And this is one of the main reasons why I want to put the focus and spotlight on stress so that there's awareness that this is a problem. The other area that I also thought was relevant in today's discussion was addictions.
Addictions.
Okay?
We're talking about smoking,
Well,
gambling,
Yeah, those are all addictions.
drugs, maybe.
Yeah. So addictions don't always have to be about drugs or alcohol or smoking.
Right.
A lot of times addictions can be like food addictions, which people don't even realize that they have that going. And what that does is it's a coping mechanism. They're basically coping with some stress in their like daily routine through food or through smoking or through gambling or something.
Or even like TV, or even going
Gaming.
Okay.
Yeah, so people have different coping mechanisms and addictions to kind of overcome some of these detrimental effects of stress.
I see.
Did
Okay.
you know that addiction and stress were related?
I didn't know that. I thought addiction, for example, one of the things that, food is definitely my choice. During COVID-19, I was really into sugar.
Yeah.
I think I shared it in this previous episode, and I could be hiding some stress myself.
I mean, it's not that you consciously do that, but it's something that you've coped with. These are like
Right.
coping mechanisms that you've had. So when you go through any stressful situation, you cope with it by doing something
Right.
to take your focus away from stress.
And they call it comfort food.
Well, that's the interesting part, because food addictions lead you to consume very specifically carbohydrate foods, sugars.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you get an instant buzz. You feel good having that, and it like kind of makes you happy for that moment. So what it does in the long run is it leads to insulin resistance. And
Which we
what
talked about
insulin
earlier.
resistance does,
Right.
it leads to diabetes, it leads to obesity, it leads to heart disease.
It's one big vicious circle.
Yes. So the how stress impacts your food choices. That connection, once
That-
people establish that connection on how when they are stressed, they reach out for their comfort foods, which are not high protein foods, which are mostly refined carbohydrates or sugars or sweets.
It's like this internal programming within you, and in order to break this cycle, you probably have to get a bit conscious about it.
Yes, you just have to be aware, because once you're aware that you're reaching out for foods like that, or you're reaching out for anything that is perceived to be sweet or carbohydrate, which is energy rich, then you know that your body is asking for some reserve,
Right.
and that invariably comes from stress. So, food and stress very closely related.
Okay, but of course we know that some of the addictions are totally unhealthy. Smoking is one.
Yep.
Gambling, and of course, in Singapore, it's like I don't think we get much of this, but drugs in overseas and everything else.
Yeah,
It's a way
it
of
is.
coping
As I said, these
mechanism.
are all coping mechanisms for that stress or pain or hurt in their past experiences. And once you've identified that, you can seek help.
Okay.
And the first step is to identify it.
Right.
Yeah. So that takes us deep into what stress is and what are the things that lead to that. So stress per se is basically how your body responds to a situation where your hormones are what play. It's an interplay of hormones.
Okay.
So some of the hormones that really go up and down during a stress situation is cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and these are some of the hormones that I think most of you would have been familiar with when you're doing adventure sports.
Oh,
The adrenaline rush that you get, that's actually a kind of a stress. It puts your body in a kind of a very lively and excited, alert state. So that's the same hormones that do that. Yeah. So what do high cortisol levels mean? Means that your stress levels over a long period of time
Right.
have been above what you have handled.
I think really can relate to this, and also the guest later on about high cortisol, because, for example, during December, we have a lot of events and going out from stage to stage, and the level of stress and the cortisol is really high up there and everything else, and it's like 3 a.m. when you get back home, you just can't sleep because of that high cortisol.
Yeah. Poor sleep, anxiety, mood swings, high blood pressure,
Yikes.
muscle aches, body pains, weight gain, susceptibility to infections. These are all invariably because of the high cortisol levels. So that kind of gives you an idea of how deep stress can go to. Okay. Then the other thing we also started off the episode with was heart disease, right?
Yes.
So
one of the killers in Singapore.
how does one bully their heart? One way is to build up stress over a long period of time.
Okay.
A lot of negative
Unresolved
stress,
problems.
unresolved problems.
Yep.
How that impacts the heart is your blood pressure goes up, your heart walls thicken up, your heartbeat becomes irregular, starts to beat fast, starts to beat slow, and then invariably there's artery getting blocked. So there's many effects to that cycle. The other thing is also food. Eating inflammatory foods, like a lot of processed foods.
Processed foods, yep.
A lot of like vegetable oils and processed.
Yes.
You mean like cooked fried foods? What they do is they kind of lead to a lot of inflammation in your heart, the vessels, That's how the blocks come into being. That's one. The other one is also poor sleep.
So three combination. I hear you: stress, food itself, and the lack of sleep.
Yes, these are the three common risk factors for, I call it the triad.
The triad.
The triad, the heart disease triad. And if you have these three risk factors, the chances that you would have heart disease during your lifetime goes up multiple times.
Okay. So what we're saying is stress. We reduce the stress on ourselves. Resolve all problems. I would say every problem, but as much as you can, the big ones.
Yep.
Food, of course, we have to take care of our food intake and
Choose
sleep.
wisely.
Hey.
Choose wisely. Get your good sleep. Okay. The other one is also, of course, weight loss, right? A lot of people think that once you're in a certain weight frame, you're healthy. So is weight loss the solution?
Yeah, it's probably like an Instagram marketing thing right now.
Well, not everything is gray in that.
Right.
A certain healthy range of weight is an indicator that your metabolism is good, in good range. But I know a lot of people who are in good metabolic range but have multiple arteries blocked in the heart.
Okay.
So how do you explain that? How do you explain that someone who's in their ideal weight range still can have multiple heart issues, multiple
Right.
blocks in the heart?
Right.
So there's a little beyond just weight. There's a lot more to health than just having weight loss. And that's why I always say when someone tries to lose weight to get healthy, that's the harder way of doing it. There's a lot more effort that's required to do that. And you have to go against your body's own physiology, hormones.
Because not everybody is every person's body is similar.
It's the same.
Right.
And not everybody is the same. Not everybody responds the same way. So, how do you then do it in an easier way? You get healthy to lose weight.
Get healthy to lose weight.
Eat right, sleep right, exercise. But not to lose weight, but to get healthy. The weight loss would happen automatically when the body comes back to balance.
Oh, that's quite a new concept altogether. Get healthy to lose weight.
That's the easiest way to do it. Effortless. Focus on getting healthy. Make right choices. It's a slower way, but it's a very sustainable way.
Okay. Just to give everybody a heads up, next week we promise you, Dr. Sankeerth, myself, and our guest next week will be revealing how much weight we actually lost.
Yeah, a lot more coming up on that. Yeah, so chronic fatigue is also one of the things like most people face in modern day society. The chronic lack of energy, multiple symptoms that come up with it, and it's basically stress over a long period of time that leads to imbalance.
So stress is the root cause for chronic
fatigue. Yes.
Okay.
So over a long time, that kind of offsets a lot of the hormonal balance, and it impacts multiple systems in the body. So we would like to go more into that in the future episodes.
Right.
But just know, chronic fatigue is very real, and it exists in modern day society. It's pervasive.
And we call it lazy, but it's actually not.
Yes, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. So how do you handle this stress better? Because we've spoken so much about stress today, and it's not fair to just leave it at that. We got to see how we can handle it better.
Of course, yes. We give you the solutions.
Yes. So social connections have been proven to be one of the best ways one could handle stress. Being in a community, meeting up with friends, dining together,
Right.
team sport. These are one of the best ways one could break free from the stress and
Right. I think it's that the part of connecting with other people, to converse, to have a joke.
Yep.
You know, just like what we do at the studio, everything else, you know.
Yep.
Well, studio work can be very stressful, but we have lots of fun doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So social connections, number one. Then connecting back to nature.
Ah, this is my favorite.
Going for walks in the
Yep.
parks. We have
Yep.
beautiful parks here in Singapore. Going to the beach. Even spending time walking on the lawn. Taking in the breeze, fresh air, gardening. These are very good ways of connecting to nature. Then also getting your health assessed regularly, objectively, not just like I feel okay or I don't feel okay, but doing some tests, at least the basic ones, to know where you are, to know your body physiology.
That means the data to actually show where you are.
Exactly.
And
To objectively know where you are. I think that's a good one. So, how do people influence you? Of course, if you're in a very toxic environment, whether it's at home, whether it's at office, it's going to have a negative effect on you, and it's going to lead to stress building up over time.
But
So-
they always have this saying, happy wife, happy life.
That's very, very true. Happy family, happy life. So nurture those happy relationships, build up on the good things in life, be
Right.
grateful. Gratitude is a very good way of
It is.
building up positive vibes. And also to sum up that, I think fun and play are underrated.
Yes, I can totally relate with that because sometimes, in my line of work and being serious and I've lost the element of fun and it makes work really like work.
Yes, that's right. So if you can get fun and play into your daily life, however it is, spending a little bit of fun time playing with your kids or with your partner, even going out and having conversations, connecting, doing things that are fun. Like I enjoy doing Legos. I enjoy setting up Legos, and that's my part of kind of letting go and de-stressing at home. So some people might find it in video games, some people might find it into online games. And find yours and just include that into your stress relief routines. And how you cope with stress also depends on what kind of food you eat. So there's a whole topic that we will go into in the next episode called mood foods, on what foods do you eat for better resilience, for better clarity, and for good mood. So in mental health, food is often not discussed in parallel, but we would like to bridge that gap for you guys so that you understand how relevant it is to choose food wisely, because that reflects your mood, your emotions, your performance, and a lot more after that. So some of the processed foods, they cause mood fluctuations because of the sugar fluctuations, whereas some foods, like fish, like vegetables, like fiber, they kind of manage your mood in a very good way. So your resilience to stress improves. Exercise, we all know, is beneficial. But let me just cap how beneficial and what are the key points for exercise. Exercise is an energy booster. It's a mood booster. It's a sleep booster. It helps you sleep better.
Yes, definitely.
It's a performance booster. It improves your blood flow to your heart and to your brain. It's a metabolism booster. It helps your mitochondria boost up, which are the energy cells. You lose weight, you get more energy, and you keep going. So exercise also is a big part of how one handles stress. And it's a big part of how the body lets go of some of the stuck energy and use, like say, whatever nutrition that you've consumed for better purpose.
Yes, you can actually exercise and go in nature at the same time.
Yes, you can. You can combine a lot of what I said into a single routine.
And have fun.
Yeah, and have fun. Yes, that's right. So getting top of your stress is crucial for good health. And how does that begin? First, identify your stress. Manage your time better. Have more me time. Learn to say no. These are things that I think we are not taught in school, but once we get these skills, it makes our life a lot more easier. Exercise regularly. Practice deep breathing. Breathing is not what we breathe but intentional breathing. Conscious breathing. And get more sleep. These are things that I feel are crucial in how we manage our stress.
Wow. There you go. You heard it from the doctor himself, all the different tips of managing stress and with the big picture of getting you healthy and everything else. All right. It's really great information from this set. I really enjoyed it. And I hope everybody at home, really enjoy and put to practice what we have shared with you. Now, in our next set, okay, we will be having our guest for today. He'll be back to entertain you. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Health Ready with Dr. Reddy. The next part of the show is where we feature a special guest with a story to share. Today, I've invited onto the show my good buddy of more than 20 years, Ross Sapani. Ross is a professional MC and founder of the show Producers. He's the voice, the face, and most importantly, the energy of major sports events like the Standard Chartered Marathons, OCBC Cycle, HSBC Rugby World Sevens, Great Eastern Women's Run, and many more. Glad to have you here, bro.
Hey, it's great to be here, Water. And, it's quite interesting. We've known each other, you were saying, that 20 years, and we've hosted and we've been involved in a lot of events. But I think this is the first time that we are meeting and doing this in this kind of setting.
Awesome.
It's very first time, and it's a very good learning experience for both of us.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, me and Ross, we've been doing this for a very long time, hosting on stage, everything else. But one thing that we all know that Ross, especially for those people in the sports fraternity, will know him as the man at the starting line, at the finishing line, charging up all the runners at like 4 a.m. in the morning, getting them to all hyped out, everything else. Ross, okay, you have to share with our viewers here your experience like at the starting line.
All right, Water. I mean, I'm gonna do this as quickly as possible. You mentioned about runners. It's not only runners.
Yes.
I've been involved with cyclists as well, riders in the OCBC cycle. I've been involved with bowling, swimming, rugby. So anything you can think of in terms of sports, I'm very privileged and very blessed to be part of it.
Right.
So it's a beautiful feeling, having to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. Most of my work schedule entails that. It's either on a Saturday or a Sunday. 4 a.m. in the morning, got to be at the starting line at about 5 o'clock or 5:30 or so. That's when thousands of runners, and if you're talking about the Standard Chartered Marathon, which I hosted for 15 long years, we're talking about massive 60,000 participants in all categories.
And Dr. Sankeerth is also at the Standard Chartered Marathon.
Yeah, I was in the medical front of it.
Oh.
So we were there around 4 or 5 o'clock, and then standing by to see if there are any over anxious people. And but I think I saw you on the stage too.
It's all over the place.
Hep.
Yes.
Well,
just the men.
If you don't see me on stage, I'm definitely sure you're gonna hear me loud and clear, because it's like 5:30 a.m. in the morning. The air is so dense and it's very still, and you can hear my irritating voice early morning.
Not just you alone, okay? Because we work as a team, right?
Yes.
So we have like Cyril Lim.
Yeah.
Who else?
So the wonderful people, the wonderful and talented hosts, which are whom I have had the pleasure of hosting with, includes yourself.
Thank
all
you.
Right, in the Safra Army Half Marathon.
The Standard Chartered Marathon.
And the Standard Chartered Marathon as well. And then I've got Cyril Lim, and then Kelly Latimer, and then Paul Leong as well, as far as I can remember, because, oh my God, it has been like 15 years consecutive.
And of course, our DJs.
Oh yeah, work together very closely with the people behind the music. I've got my I don't say personal DJ, but the DJ whom I work with many times during the runs, because they know the kind of music that I want to play. And music is an integral part of any event, especially during the runs and the sports events, because it evokes a lot of emotions and a lot of oomph in all the runs, especially during the starts.
With you describing all this, there's also a tinge of sadness that I'm feeling right now. Because it has been quite some time since we have done any sports events, and we all know this is the season with COVID-19, everything else. So, Ross, how has it affected you?
So since January, we've seen it coming, and I would like to stress this. Somebody dear to me has once said, and I always remember this. He says that our industry, the events, especially the events industry, and that includes the sports industry as well, is the first to get hit by this pandemic in terms of hit economically, and we are going to be the last to recover from this pandemic. So it is a very trying, very challenging times ahead of us.
Yeah. So how have the events industry responded to all these changes?
Well, it has been positive. It has been wonderful. For the very first time in so many years that we have been, and I have been in the events and entertainment industry. This is the first time that I've seen so many of our events people to come together. And just chuck away their differences which they had, coming together because we are in a grave situation.
We're all fighting a common enemy.
Well, adversity always brings people together.
You're
right?
Yes,
right.
right.
Yes, adversity always brings people together, and it's so heartening to find that balance and find that that push towards getting together and working and finding a solution together.
I did see you guys present on the social media platforms as well, the campaigns,
Yes.
the holding banners,
that's
kind
right.
of raising awareness amongst the general public about what's going on with the events industry and artists and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's actually very inspiring.
Yeah, a big shout out to all our friends in the events and entertainment industry. Tough times don't last. Tough people do, and the events and entertainment industry people, we are very resilient and we are very, very tough.
Right. But what about yourself? We collectively, the industry, everybody's like pivoting, trying out new things. Even for myself, like doing this in front of camera.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I always look at it positively. So the first few months has been a challenge. But I was fortunate enough to have friends from the sports industry, namely Sports Singapore, who came on board, whom approached me personally. And the beautiful part is they helped me in a way that I can help the events and entertainment industry
More
as
people.
well.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
So working with Sports SG or Sports Singapore and tying them with our members of the Star Association, which involves the events company and event organizers, and giving out certain grants for them to kind of like survive during these times. So I'm very blessed, I'm very privileged to have that particular person from Sports SG to come to me and to say that, hey, look, this is the time for us to help each other. I want you, since you've got that connection under Star Association.
But over coffee the other day, you were mentioning that you have a special business, a new business that you really enjoy doing.
So I was
Right.
looking at it and said, "Oh my God, it's circuit breaker. I can't, I have to stay home and I got to make ends meet as well.
Right, we
make
got
ends
bills
meet,
to pay,
right? I've
yep.
got bills to pay. So no shows, nothing at all. So it so happened that my mom, my 80-year-old mom, who stays with me, decided during the fasting month, decided to whip up her traditional kueh or traditional dessert, Malay dessert, which is called bubur sumsum. So it's a nice rice flour mix with coconut milk, and then you eat it with sugar syrup. Yeah,
Right,
sugar
right.
syrup. So it's a simple dish. It's a traditional dish. You can't get it anywhere. And when I tasted it for the very first time, I said, "Wow!" And something, there's that eureka moment, that thing, and I said, why don't I try and sell this? So I did, with the help of my wife, who's been an instrumental part of this journey. She helped in the marketing. She went into the Facebook groups and all that. So we went
Right.
into that whole thing.
Right.
And one thing led to another. The orders started coming in. Everybody liked it. My wife did a fantastic job in taking pictures. I think we found her we found a new talent in her, which is
Right.
photography.
Right.
So one thing led to another. So from that traditional kueh, we expanded to get on board my auntie. To bake, because she's a great baker of kuehs, traditional Malay kueh, and she did some, and then we started to sell, we started to deliver, and
One thing leads
it all
to another.
started. Yeah, it all
So
started.
audience,
Amazing,
if you're
amazing.
looking for kuehs, you know who to look for.
And the name of the name of my little initiative is simple. It's traditional kueh, as in KUIH.
Okay.
All right. So it's very
Okay,
simple.
So, Dr. Sankeerth, all right, do you know that our dear friend here, in 2006, had a heart attack?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we were like probably saying this out loud.
Yeah. So it has been, 15 years, 14 years, right? 2020, 2006. So it has been 14 years, and I've kept it from a lot of people.
Yep.
I kept it away from a lot of people. The fact that I do that is mainly because, I'm always a positive person, and I don't talk about it. And when you don't talk about it, I always believe when you don't talk about something, it didn't happen. Guys, 2006, I had a little scare, which is a heart attack. Only one artery was blocked, mind you. And I went for an angioplasty, and I recovered very well since then. And in 2006, so starting from 2010 onwards, I started, leading a more healthy lifestyle. I did not an Ironman, but I did a triathlon, a sprint category. I run 10 kilometers. I did a half marathon.
And this is after your heart attack.
After my heart attack. All right.
3 years down. 3 years after your heart attack.
About 3 years after.
That's
and during
good.
the first 3 years after my heart attack, I was living a life. Still living a dangerous lifestyle.
I see.
Yeah. So that was
What really switched?
Yeah, so 2009, around there, I spoke to a friend of mine, and he's a financial advisor, and I started to put aside certain amount of money for the wife, for my children, in case something happens. And I always remember these words from my friend. He said, "Look, why are you preparing for your death? You are preparing for your death by putting aside all this money. You're great." And I answered to him. My answer to him was very simple. I said, "No, I want to take care of my family if I'm gone." I said, "Do you know that the perfect gift that you can give to your family is yourself, which means keep yourself healthy,
to be healthy,
and be present." And that struck a blow to me. I was
That
like,
is so true.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell was I doing? So you are right. And that's when I started my journey. I was nearly 100 kilos back then.
Wow.
And now I'm 78.
Is there any correlation to his heart attack, doctor?
Well, as he said, right, the lifestyle would have played a big role in how the risk factors had piled up and then led to that point where you had a heart attack. But also, as you said, nutrition plays a big role.
Yep.
Weight is just an indicator that there's something not right, not going on, that your body is piling up and storing energy. So that's probably an indicator to say, hey, there's something going on underneath.
And if I may add, the lifestyle that we lead, doing events, up on stage, everything else,
Yeah.
the stress.
Yeah, it's always late nights.
Stress is so big.
Yeah.
And especially if you're doing like untimely hours or even eating untimely hours. And also, when you're on the move, you tend to grab whatever you get.
Yeah.
You don't get time to plan your meals. This is something I guess a lot of people who do shift work, a lot of people on the move, it's a lifestyle thing, I guess.
Yes.
And the stress piles up and it does impact health very badly.
Ross, do you like to share with Dr. Sankeerth, what were you doing the night before?
I was doing an event for a certain company. I wouldn't want to say it's a Japanese company. And we were at Zouk. And I was jumping around with the microphone, entertaining everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that point in time, I had a little feeling that something's not right. So all I did was to pop the GTN, which is an aspirin kind of tablet where you pop it under your tongue, and that kind of like dissolves, acts as an aspirin and dissolves and thins the blood, right?
Yeah.
So I was living on that for that night, and fortunately I had that with me. Yeah.
Wow.
So the very next day in the morning, I went straight to the A&E and I was admitted, and straight away we did the surgery.
That probably made a big difference to how your arteries would have like held on with the blood flow and stuff. And and being at that time at Zouk, you probably wouldn't think that there's something coming, and you would just like push it till the next day.
Yes.
And I'm so glad it wasn't a major event.
Yeah. I'm so glad as well. So drawing from that experience, you know what I did? I know it pointed out to me that it's very important to always listen to your body, because at that moment, during that night, if I hadn't listened to my body, if I hadn't taken the GTN pill, it would be disastrous. Yeah. So always listen to your body. That's my mantra, and that's where I always impart that mantra. That 4 words: listen to your body, to all the runners whenever I'm engaged with them at all the runs.
Yeah.
Right. So, what are some of the steps that you've taken to actually help change your lifestyle?
Basically, a lot of changes, Water. So I do my exercises every day, almost every day. I go to the gym, I run, all right? I run average of 5 kilometers every other day. So I eat healthily, you know. I do intermittent fasting. Now I'm on keto. I'm trying my very best to try and cut down on my intake.
Join my club.
Yeah, no carbs. So I read up a lot on all these journals and articles that talks about, you know, healthy lifestyle. So I talk to a lot of people whom I become friends. They were runners. I mean, they are still runners, and they are in the health industry. And now they are my friends, and we exchange information and keep on telling me what to do.
And it's always good to have that friends who are on the same journey, who exchange those key tips on how to like keep things rolling, motivate each other, and at the same time also, keto has been a very transformation aspect for a lot of people who are trying to get healthy, who are trying to keep a very balanced diet, and to reverse some of these risk factors that lead to like cardiac problems. So I thought what you did as a group of friends, or even what you initiated, the intermittent fasting and keto, is been there's a lot of research that's coming out now that says that it's really working for a lot of people. And even for Water, I think that's something that impacted you.
But I know Ross. You know, he's always the king of positive thinking. Okay, he's always about thinking, changing the mindset. You know, think positive and stuff like that. So, what about some words to all our viewers out there?
Yeah, I mean,
during this trying time.
Yeah, in fact, not only for health, but also for the times that we are. I mean, the situation that we are in right now. Positive thinking is always it always works for me, and I'm sure it will work for all of you out there. Now, guys, it's more difficult to act on it rather than saying it out loud. But always try to keep a positive mindset.
Right.
I always believe in that. What you perceive, you will achieve. That's basically my mantra most of the time. And wake up, you know, every morning feeling grateful of what you have, feeling blessed at what you have, and then look forward to a day of positives. Everything and anything that spells positive. Look at the positives in every situation. COVID-19, it affects everybody, but there's always a silver lining, and there's always learning opportunities. Like right now, I'm feeling very blessed because for the very first time, I'm doing this with Water. I'm doing this with you, Dr. Reddy, and I'm among friends, and I'm in this wonderful setup, which is quite alien for me because we are live presenters, and it's a learning experience. It's always a positive learning experience. And what about my traditional kueh? For the very first time, I got into the Facebook world. I got into groups, and I get to learn about
new business,
internet marketing, you know, and everything that works, everything that I need to do to make my business work.
But I really love the way how your family came together and how you pulled in your relatives and the family, the enterprise that thing set in. I think that's one great example of how adversity, you innovate and then you pivot and then you monetize that. I really love that story.
Right. I'm very blessed to have such good, strong family support.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, on that positive note, I really wish I could have you throughout the whole show, but we have more things to come for all the viewers there.
Yeah.
So, Ross, thank you so much. You know, it's
you.
a blessing to have you as a good friend, and thank you for coming to our show.
Likewise.
All right.
Thank you, Ross. And it was a very inspiring story to know about what you had gone through, how you've transformed from there on, how you made changes to your life, and how it's impacted. And it's a great example for many people to admire.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having me here.
So we'll see you back for our next set where we're going to dispel some myths about some of the food that you would normally eat. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the show. I hope you enjoyed the segment with Ross. Now, Sankeerth, what do you have for us in this segment?
So, we hear many things and so-called facts being peddled online these days.
Fake news.
Fake news, whether they are true or not. So we thought we'll make it a little fun, and
Okay.
let's take time to play a fun game called Mythbusters.
All right. So what's going to happen in this game?
So we will talk about some of the common myths that are going around, claiming to be facts or not, and let's put them to the test.
Okay.
So the first one, are you ready for
You're
it?
going to ask me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Why not?
Egg yolks are bad for you.
Egg yolks are bad. That's what a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of articles and a lot of doctors and everything else. Yes, egg yolks are bad, period.
That's not true. It's a myth.
Oh? Myth?
Yep,
Oh.
because egg yolks have some of the most healthy fats available to us, and they have other nutrients like choline and all that, which it's very hard to get in other foods. So egg yolks, popular to what most people believe, don't really cause your cholesterol to go up. There's a lot of evidence that says what you eat, the
Right.
cholesterol or fats you eat, doesn't become cholesterol in the bloods. So you can have a healthy portion of eggs as long as they are well pasture. I mean, I prefer pasture-raised eggs, but any eggs you can eat the yolk together. You don't have to throw that away. Eat the white and the yolk. Good protein and good fat in one shot.
I know I heard from a friend of mine about this term called free-ranging chickens.
That's right.
And the eggs that they produce is totally different from whatever you find, say, maybe in the supermarket.
Well, you do get them in the supermarket, but it's just that the quality of eggs, how they are made, the birds are free roaming,
Right.
or raised in barns. So the quality of protein, they eat grains or they eat naturally, like going around, running around, eating worms. So the quality of eggs is much better,
Okay.
and
First-
taste is better too.
And since we talked about stress earlier on, these are chickens that are like not kept in a coop and
Yes.
feel so stressful.
Unstressed.
Okay. Oh, okay. Egg yolks are good, and egg period is actually quite
Yeah,
good, actually.
it's quite good.
How many do you recommend a day?
I think it's for most people, I think up to 3 to 4 eggs a day shouldn't be a problem. If you're really working out and trying to bulk up or putting on muscles, you can definitely eat more. But I think 3 eggs shouldn't be a problem
Okay,
at all.
so you heard it on this show. Eggs are healthy.
The next myth we want to talk about is about protein.
Proteins.
There's a big buzz about this going on right now. So eating more protein will lead to bigger muscles.
Well, I eat a lot of proteins myself, fish, chicken, and everything else, but I don't seem to find the muscles anywhere.
That's a myth.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll explain. So just because you're eating a lot of protein, it doesn't mean it gets converted to muscle. Okay?
Okay.
But if you're working out and your muscles are constantly like put under load, resistance, then there's muscle growth. So the muscle bulks up.
I see.
At that time, if you're consuming protein, that protein is used for muscle building.
All right.
So combining exercise, resistance exercise, and protein intake builds muscles.
Does it mean that if you are not working out, you take lesser protein?
Ideally, your body doesn't need so much protein when you're not trying to like bulk up.
Okay.
So everybody needs a certain amount of protein. So protein is essential for the balance, to keep you full, to keep you satiated, but you don't need 200 grams of protein a day.
Nothing too excessive. So, for example, when I was young, my mom always say, eat more fish, it's good for you and everything else. So there is, of course, you eat a fish, but there is a limit to that you can actually eat, actually.
Yeah, well, your body only uses a certain amount of protein, and if you have excess protein, it just gets broken down.
Just like carbs.
Yes, exactly. It's used for energy. Instead of
see.
building muscles, it just goes into energy consumption. So the best way to utilize protein is when you are exercising, especially resistance exercises. The
Okay.
other myth that I want to talk about, which is very, very important and very popular since we are talking more about keto diets these days,
Yes.
fat makes you fat.
This one I know very well because I am a big fan of eating fats. So, not true.
That's right. That's a myth. Fat doesn't make you fat. There's a lot of research that says that healthy fats don't make you
Yes.
fat. The trans fats or the processed fats or the inflammatory fats are the ones that are harmful. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you might gain more weight eating carbs
Yes.
than eating fats.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of how keto works, keto diets work, is when you're on fat diet, when your body is adopted to that, when your body is able to use that as a main source of fuel, you tend to lose more weight just by eating more fats. Well, it's not for everyone, but it's also true that not all fats cause weight gain.
So, it's actually from other sources, which is carbs
Mostly carbs
and
and
sugar.
inflammatory foods.
and inflammatory food.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, here it is. If you have diabetes, stay away from sugar and you'll be fine. Have you heard this before?
Well, in my family tree, because we did talk about it in the last episode about diabetes, and it doesn't really run into my in my family line. But taking a wild guess, yes, it's true.
Yeah, it's commonly peddled that it's commonly believed that stay away from sugar and you'll not get diabetes or your diabetes will be under control or things like that. But there is a whole lot of research that says that sugar is not the main culprit. Like sugar as in like table sugar, like how you get the common sugar. That's not the main culprit. The main culprit comes from simple carbs.
Okay.
The more
glucose.
yes, the glucose, the fructose, the different sucrose.
Sucrose, yeah.
Yeah. So the different sugars, the simple sugars that you eat, whether it's rice, whether it's grains, whether it's breads, whatever, pizzas or whatever, they invariably lead to an energy excess. How much sugar can you eat? Probably if you're drinking processed drinks, canned drinks and stuff,
Oh, okay.
that might be loaded with sugar. But
Yes.
in general, not everybody eats a ton of sugar on a daily
Right.
basis. So the bulk of the excess sugar that our body forms comes from carbs. So choosing your macronutrients wisely is more important than putting the blame onto sugar and pushing sugar out as a culprit.
So once in a while, just going out with your friends, have a bit of prata and everything else is all right.
Well, prata, that's a different story. Once in a while, yes, of course, in moderation. As long as you have your other bases covered,
Yes.
I think it should not cause you harm. Even having a bite of an ice cream or something once in a while is not going to cause you that big a deal.
Okay.
But if you're consuming very high carb diets, not exercising, and having poor lifestyle, that's going to have a detrimental
And
effect.
this goes with what we've shared about insulin resistance earlier on.
Yes, that's right. Very much connected. And one thing that I didn't cover earlier on is on sexual health and fertility. I thought it was relevant talking about it here because insulin resistance has been pointed out as one of the biggest causes for vascular problems. And in men and even in women, it causes a lot of inflammatory issues, insulin resistance. And what that leads to is things like infertility, things like impotence, things like erectile dysfunction. So these all come as a result of imbalances that come in due to inflammation and insulin resistance. And there's a lot of research that's going into it. Essentially, these are products of hormones interacting. There are about 20 different types of hormones that are very closely knit to present what we call as sexual health for us. Since we all enjoy that, so it's good that we know about it
Yep.
and remain in peak performance and know what's healthy and what to avoid to have a very healthy, fulfilling life.
Today we've really talked about a lot of content and really good stuff that you can actually apply some of the tips. Okay, so what are some of the simplified tips that we can actually talk about earlier on?
Okay.
It's like a formula.
Yeah, so let me say, let's make it a 3-step formula.
Oh, keep it simple.
Let's keep it simple.
Yep.
A 3-step formula. So choose non-inflammatory foods. Okay, that's number 1.
And we're going to talk more about this in the next episode.
Yep. Number 2, 30 minutes of movement and exercise
All
a
right.
day.
Okay.
If
so-
you can do it every day, that's perfect. 30 minutes is a small time. It doesn't have to be aggressive exercises, but even a walk, even a stroll in the park
Yep.
counts.
And we did talk about nature and having fun. Get creative. You can combine
get
all
your
this.
friends, get your partner,
Yes.
get your kids. Everybody can go on a roll, go cycling, team sport, whatever it is. 30 minutes a day, about 150 minutes a week. That should be the perfect sweet spot.
Greatly reduce your stress.
Yeah. So that's number 2. Number 3, sleep. Get 6 to 8 hours of sleep on a daily basis. The quality of sleep is not going to improve overnight, but it's going to take a while for you to improve on the quality of sleep. But if you're addressing the nutrition and the exercise and movement part, your sleep will invariably improve too.
No, there you have it.
So that's the 3-step formula. So let me go through it again. Avoid inflammatory foods, 30 minutes of exercise a day, and 6 to 8 hours of sleep every day.
Sounds good. Very doable.
And I think we had a great episode today. I would like to
Christoph.
just go through a recap of what we discussed today,
Yes.
since we discussed a lot. So, prevent disease by handling the root causes. That's one of the key things we discussed today. Always look at the root causes. Stress is silent, but an important degenerative risk factor. So be aware of the stress and always handle it before it gets worse. Health beyond weight. Get healthy to lose weight, not lose weight to get healthy. Protect your heart. Choose wisely your food, exercises, manage your stress in time. That's going to protect your heart. Maintain optimum nutrition. Have an exercise routine both for stress and for lifestyle purposes. Assess your health regularly and follow the 3-step formula.
Sounds really, really good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there are loads of takeaways from this episode. So many reasons for you to take care of yourself. The earlier you do it, the better your chance of recovery. Now, don't wait for an emergency to happen before you take action. I know this very well.
Absolutely Water. Once again, you can find us on Facebook, fb.com/healthreadyshow. Please check us out, where you can find updates on the show, our behind the scenes, our team, and plenty of curated posts to support you on your health journey.
All right, thank you so much. All right, in our next episode, it's going to be my favorite. We are going to talk about food. So till then, from all of us at Health Ready with Dr. Reddy, my name is Water Tay.
And this is Sankeerth Reddy.
Au
Au revoir.
revoir.